Welcome back to the Diplomacy and Discourse channel. I'm your host, AR. And today we're diving into part 2 of our discussion on tackling wicked problems and the innovative approaches required to address them. Last time we explored systems thinking and its role in addressing the complexities of wicked problems. We also delved into the characteristics of these global issues and their implications for policy and society. In this episode, we'll transition into how design thinking complements systems thinking, along with real-world examples of how these approaches have shaped responses to complex global challenges. So just to recap, systems thinking looks at the bigger picture. It considers how different parts of a system interact and influence each other. It focuses on understanding the relationships, feedback loops, and dynamics within a system, with the aim of finding effective solutions. But on the flip side, we have design thinking. Design thinking is a human-centered approach to problem solving. It involves understanding users' needs and perspectives, generating creative ideas, and prototyping and testing potential solutions. Design thinking emphasizes empathy, experimentation, and iteration to create innovative and user-friendly solutions. It can connect people and inspire creative ideas, and hopefully bring more innovative solutions to the world. While both systems thinking and design thinking involve holistic approaches to problem solving, they differ in their specific focus and methodology. Systems thinking focuses on systems interconnectedness and complexity, while design thinking emphasizes user-centered design and inventive problem-solving. Design thinking was not mentioned before, as it is a more recent approach to problem-solving, which has only recently gained popularity. It emphasizes a user-centered approach to problem-solving, which can be a more effective way to solve wicked problems that are too complex to solve with traditional methods. By understanding users' needs and perspectives, generating creative ideas, and prototyping and testing potential solutions, design thinking can help to reduce, persuade, perturb, and orient wicked problems. By blending systems thinking with design thinking, it is possible to gain a more comprehensive view of the problem and develop creative and innovative solutions. It's pretty clear that the contemporary democratic organization is incapable of dealing with a series of wicked problems that are crucial to the functioning of democracy. These issues include a lack of transparency and accountability, as well as unequal distribution of resources and increasing polarization within society. All of these have weakened the public trust in the democratic institutions and the processes, making it difficult for democracies to effectively address the problems they face. To emphasize again, wicked problems have fragmentary, antithetical, and varying standards. Solutions are often difficult to identify and discern due to knotty interdependencies. While attempting to remedy a wicked problem, the elimination of one of its elements may reveal or produce another, even more complex dilemmas. The obscurities of wicked problems challenge linear thinking, reductionism, and professional education. Foreign policy has provided some notable instances. For example, a foreign policy decision to deploy troops to a certain region may be seen as a solution to a particular problem, but this could create a variety of unintended consequences that could further complicate the situation and create new, more complex problems. Every foreign intrusion in the Middle East by the West since the invasion of Gallipoli in April 1915, with the oftentimes disputed exception of Israel when it was declared a nation in 1948, has been misunderstood, unsuccessful in its execution, and has fomented a new set of unanticipated problems. These interventions have destabilized the region, resulting in military coups, civil wars, and ethnic and sectarian conflicts that have cost thousands of lives and billions of dollars in destruction. Also, the interventions have often failed to address the root causes of the conflicts, leading to increased radicalization and extremism in the region. This has had a ripple effect on other countries in the Middle East and beyond, with refugees fleeing to Europe and other parts of the world, and the increasing presence of extremist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. The instability caused by these interventions has had devastating effects on the region and the world, and that's mainly because many of the interventions were primarily focused on short-term gains and not long-term solutions to the underlying issues. Some short-term gains of foreign interventions in the Middle East include gaining control of resources such as oil, establishing military bases, and curbing the influence of rival countries. As a result, the underlying issues remained unresolved and led to further radicalization of local populations and increased presence of extremist groups. To address these multifaceted issues, a comprehensive and collaborative approach is essential. Here are some strategies that could pave the way for a more stable and prosperous Middle East. The first, empower regional diplomacy. Encouraging Middle Eastern nations to take the lead in resolving their own conflicts can foster more sustainable solutions. Though the Abraham Accords have shown some promises in normalizing relations between countries, as well as promote dialogue and reduce tensions, nothing can truly be resolved unless the Palestinians have their own state, Israel concedes to the international laws, and Iran reduces its tension with Israel, and vice versa, as well as Israel reducing tensions with other Middle Eastern countries. By supporting regional diplomatic efforts, external powers can play a constructive role without imposing solutions. The second is invest in economic development. Economic instability often fuels unrest. Investing in infrastructure, education, and job creation can provide alternatives to extremism and foster hope for the future. Programs that support entrepreneurship and innovation can empower individuals and communities, reducing the appeal of radical ideologies. The third, promote inclusive governance. Inclusive political systems that represent diverse populations can mitigate feelings of marginalization. Encouraging reforms that promote transparency, accountability, and citizen participation can strengthen governance and reduce the likelihood of conflict. The fourth, enhance education and counter radicalization. Education is a powerful tool against extremism. Implementing curricula that promotes critical thinking, tolerance, and civic engagement can counteract radical narratives. Additionally, community-based programs that address the root causes of radicalization can be effective in preventing the spread of extremist ideologies. Number 5. Support civil society and human rights. A vibrant civil society can hold governments accountable and advocate for human rights. Supporting non-governmental organizations, journalists, and activists can contribute to a more open and just society. Protecting human rights is not only a moral imperative, but also essential for long-term stability. Number 6. Address refugee and humanitarian crises. The displacement of populations due to conflict has far-reaching implications. Providing humanitarian aid, supporting refugee resettlement, and addressing the root causes of displacement are critical components of a comprehensive strategy for regional stability. And lastly, number 7, re-evaluate foreign policy approaches. External powers should reassess their strategies in the Middle East, moving away from military interventions toward diplomatic engagement and support for local initiatives. A focus on short-term partnerships and mutual interests can lead to more effective and sustainable outcomes. Addressing the Middle East's complex challenges requires a multifaceted and collaborative approach. By empowering regional actors, investing in economic and social development, and promoting inclusive governance, there is potential to transform the region's trajectory toward a more peaceful and prosperous future. So let's talk about some of the wicked problems the world's facing right now and what might actually help move the needle. First off, terrorism. It's still a major threat that disrupts people's sense of safety all around the world. It's not just the violence, it's the ripple effects it creates, emotionally and economically. One of the real ways forward is investing in communities and building trust locally. The more connected people feel, the less likely they are to fall into radical networks. And globally, countries sharing intelligence and coordinating efforts can go a long way. But let's be honest, unless we tackle deeper root causes like poverty, broken political systems, and social injustice, we are just putting out fires. Do you know about that clash of civilizations theory? The one where cultures are supposedly doomed to collide? Yeah, that's been floating around since Huntington's theory in the 90s. But while there might be real cultural tensions out there, this idea oversimplifies things and often fuels division rather than helping us bridge it. What we really need is more dialogue, more human-to-human interaction across cultures, more education that teaches kids how to think critically about identity, and honestly, more shared experiences. When people work together, whether it's through education, art, or business, those imagined divisions start to look smaller. Then there's the whole political dilemma of telling the truth versus winning elections. It's a tricky one. Politicians often feel like they have to choose between honesty and electability. But if voters are better informed, maybe the truth wouldn't feel like such a political liability. That's why things like independent fact-checkers and voter education campaigns matter. They give people tools to separate substance from spin. And maybe, just maybe, if we made campaign promises more transparent and held leaders accountable for keeping them, we'd see more trust in the process. Let's move on to something else that's been under fire lately: the scientific method. In a world where doing your own research sometimes just means scrolling TikTok, it's getting harder to separate fact from fiction. And that's dangerous. We've got to get back to the basics. Education systems need to reinforce critical thinking, and science needs to be communicated in ways that actually make sense to the average person. We can't have policies driven by vibes. They've got to be grounded in solid, tested evidence. Speaking of vibes, how we consume information today is wild. With social media, people want news instantly, but they don't always want the whole story. The result? A false sense of knowing. People see headlines, think they got the gist, and move on. But without real context, it's easy to make poor decisions. We've got to start teaching media literacy like it's a survival skill, because honestly, it is. Platforms should do their part too, flagging misinformation and boosting legitimate sources. But ultimately, we've got to diversify where we are getting our information from and slow down a bit before reacting. Then there's the climate crisis. And man, progress has been frustratingly slow. Part of the problem is that climate change is a global issue with local politics. Every country's got its own priorities and red lines, and it makes coming to a real agreement super difficult. What might help? Actually enforcing international agreements, listening to the voices of smaller or more vulnerable nations, and getting everyday people more involved. Climate activism at the grassroots level can push governments to stop dragging their feet. Political debates aren't doing so hot either. Let's be honest, they have gotten pretty polarized and often more about scoring points than solving problems. That's not helping anyone. We need to bring some structure and seriousness back into how we discuss politics. Maybe that means better moderators, new formats, or public forums where real conversations can happen, not just sound bites for Twitter clips. And speaking of messy political landscapes, one of the biggest barriers right now is how divided everything feels. Ideology often trumps evidence, and power struggles drown out collaboration. That's why bipartisan approaches matter. When leaders can find even small common ground, it can open the door to real progress. It also helps when policymakers are open to input from a variety of voices, not just the loudest ones. This brings us to the role of political elites. They hold a lot of influence, and reform isn't going anywhere unless they are a part of it. The challenge is getting them to buy in. Sometimes that takes a little incentive, a little transparency, and some collaborative platforms where they are working alongside communities rather than dictating from the top down. Another piece of the puzzle is the collapse of institutions. Things like churches, welfare organizations, political parties, and even the military in some cases. A lot of people have just lost faith in these institutions, and with tech changing how we connect, it's easy to understand why. But rebuilding trust means making these spaces relevant again, updating them for today's values, involving local communities, and opening up the decision-making process could give them a second life. Of course, corruption is always in the mix too. Whether it's corporate lobbying, personal interests over public goods, or shady backdoor deals. That stuff erodes everything. Strong anti-corruption bodies, protection for whistleblowers, and citizen education campaigns could help tilt the scales back toward integrity. Foreign affairs and defense policy haven't been immune either. Short-term thinking and inconsistent goals weaken national security and global partnerships. What we need is long-term strategy, clear communication, and strong alliances. Stuff that can outlast election cycles and bring some stability back into international relations. And finally, we got to talk about how government deals with budget deficits. Relying only on cuts, selling off public assets, or borrowing without fixing the revenue side is a recipe for disaster. A more balanced approach, fair taxation, smart investments, and trimming real waste is the only way forward if we want to fund services and avoid economic crises down the line. Overcoming or addressing key barriers can be a daunting task when the nature of these barriers is inherently strained. This strain is particularly evident in the context of wicked problems, such as climate change and jihadism, which present enduring challenges. Additionally, the extended duration of political cycles and the persistent effort of corrupt dictators and officials to retain power can disrupt democratic processes. Conversely, media cycles operate within much shorter timeframes, often losing interest in a story within a mere 24 hours. Reflecting on the impact of the IT revolution, a significant misconception emerges. The IT revolution is the rapid expansion and adoption of information technology enabled by advances in computing power, as well as the growth of the internet and the emergence of mobile devices. It has led to the digitization of many aspects of life, including communication, entertainment, commerce, and other areas. While many initially believed that access to innovative technology would broaden horizons and encourage the pursuit of universal, long-term interests, the reality has been quite different. Technologies like the smartphone have, instead, reinforced the personal realm. Social media platforms, with their emphasis on accessibility and reinforcement of existing viewpoints, exemplify this shift. This casts a different light on the initial expectations surrounding technological progress. If we're going to take on these wicked problems, we really need to think big picture in systems and apply design thinking. We should also strive to recognize our personal shortcomings and focus on personal development. This way, we can become more innovative and influential leaders, helping to make a positive impact on the world. Ultimately, this is the best way to work towards diminishing wicked problems and creating a more equitable and sustainable future. Here in part 2, we've expanded on the potential of combining systems and design thinking to holistically address wicked problems. From tackling deeply rooted global issues like climate change and geopolitical tensions to understanding the interplay of technology and policy, these approaches provide innovative ways to reframe and approach challenges. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this deep dive of wicked problems. As we wrap up, remember that change starts with understanding, empathy, and collective effort. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the Diplomacy and Discourse channel for more episodes where we unravel complex global issues and their solutions. Catch you on the next one. Stay sharp and take care.